everyone, Sorrell. Welcome to Korea.
Thank you.
My name is Roland Davis. I'm the director of the British Council here in Seoul, and it's great to welcome you here to Seoul this week.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay. Well, just to set the scene, we're sitting in the Hyundai Car Design Library, which we've had a look around. It's a fantastic building.
Beautiful.
And just to introduce you, you've been involved in design for 40 plus years. You've been involved as a practitioner, as an author, as a champion of design, as an ambassador for UK design, in all sorts of capacities in design. I'd like to start by asking you about your personal journey through design, in design.
Well, it really started when I was 14 years old. I was at school, and my art teacher said to me one day, "Would you like to go to Saturday morning classes at Hornsey College of Art," which was my local art school? And I said yes, and I went along, and within half an hour I knew that this is, for me, this is what I wanted to do. And so I went to Saturday classes, and then I went to Hornsey on a full-time course when I was 16, which is what you could do then, a long time ago. And it was a 3-year course, so I finished the course when I was 19, and I set up my first design business with a great friend of mine, Chuck Goodwin, who had been at Hornsey College of Art with me. We were students together, and we had no idea what we were doing. We were very naive, but strangely we managed to get some work. And after we ran that business for 7 years, through the 60s, swinging 60s in London, and then we went our separate ways, although Chuck is still my greatest friend. And I went to work for a company called Wolf Aliens for 5 years. And then in 1976, my wife, Frances, and I set up our design business, Newell and Sorrell, which we ran for about 25 years. We sold it at the end of the 90s, and we used part of the proceeds to set up our charity, the Sorrell Foundation. And over the years, I've done lots of other things. I chaired the Design Council for 6 years. I chaired the Commission for Architecture and the Built Environment for 6 years. I've set up the London Design Festival, and I also, which is what I'm doing in Korea, I'm also a UK business ambassador for the creative industries.
Okay. Well, two things you mentioned. One was the Sorrell Foundation and education, and the other London Design Festival. We'll come back to those a bit later. But maybe it's a very simple question, but as somebody who's been involved in design for as long as you are, just tell me what does design mean for you? What's it all about?
Well, it's everything. In fact, Adam Fletcher, the great designer, said design is everything. And if you think about it, where we are in this beautiful library, absolutely everything's been designed. Every single book on the shelves, everything's been designed. The building itself, the lighting, the floor coverings, these stools, the clothes we're wearing, everything's been designed. The system which gets you in here with a little card which you put against a little place on the desk, everything's been designed. The way the services in here work has been designed. So design really is around us and with us and part of our lives all the time. And what really interests me is how we can use design to make people's lives better in every possible way.
I mean, just to take that point, using design to make people's lives better, how does that happen? Are you talking about convenience, or speed, or aesthetics? What is it?
Well, it can mean life and death, because design in, let's say, the medical area can actually mean changes in the way that things are designed, which can actually save people's lives. So, for example, when the first home dialysis machine was invented, it was a dramatic change for people who had to go to hospital before that for dialysis. But this meant that they could have dialysis treatment at home. that was a beautiful piece of design by a man called Dean Kamen, who also designed the Segway, the extraordinary machine that you stand on, it goes on. Now, design can change lives quite dramatically in that sense, but it can also just affect very simple things like the way you open a can with a can opener that works. The way a telephone banking service works is designed. It doesn't just happen. So design can affect us in very tiny ways, but also in very big ways.
Yeah. So you're not just talking about design of things, of objects, you're talking about design of you mentioned a service, telephone banking, a process is also subject you design. Service
design, urban design, the way that a city is planned and laid out, the way that you can move around spaces. There are so many different forms of design, and people get hung up sometimes on saying, well, can you give me a definition of design? And when I was chairman of the Design Council, I got fed up with being asked that question. So I produced a little book, which is called Definitions of Design. And I went to 100 people, from the Prime Minister to an 11-year-old child, and asked them that question, what is design? I've got 100 different definitions. Okay. And they're all fine.
They're all good.
They are all absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Because design means different things to different people.
But I mean, establishing that design is something very, very important. I mean, it leads me to another question about design education then. I mean, how does a country, how does the school system produce good designers? Are they, is it something that we teach creativity, we teach design, or is it, do we unlock the creativity in people? How does it work in your experience?
This is a big, big question for countries all over the world, and it's something I've been talking about in Korea. And it's a big debate in the UK as well, because in the UK we're very fortunate to have a creative education system that goes back 150 years. And we have a structure which enables a child to have a journey through primary school, secondary school, into tertiary education, into colleges, universities, and then into careers in the creative industries. But it can always be improved. And people say, can you teach creativity? You can create the right climate to help a child unlock their creativity. And in fact, everyone's born creative. And one of the problems is that sometimes very creative children who are very free in the way they play and use their imagination are then kind of closed down in an education system that denies them the freedom to use their imagination because they're told you've got to do it this way. And I am very interested in how all societies can give their children a creative education, no matter what they do. They don't have to end up as artists or designers, because you can use your creativity, whatever you do, an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, a taxi driver, you can use your creativity in life. So I'm very interested in how we give every child a creative education.
Okay. And you're involved very directly in education. You mentioned the Sorrell Foundation earlier. Just tell us briefly about that.
Well, my wife and I used part of the proceeds of the sale of our business to set our foundation up in 1999. And we've worked over the period, 13 years now, with over 10,000 children directly, and our work has affected about 500,000, about 500,000 children in the UK. And we work on projects which are all about inspiring their creativity. And I'll give you two quick examples. We run a project called Joined Up Design for Schools, which is about role reversal. And instead of asking children, school children, to design something, we would ask them to create the brief for something they would like to see designed to change quality of life in their school. And then we would appoint a designer or architect to work for them.
Make it happen.
To actually do it. So the children were the clients, because we think that children are great clients, consumers, and they are consumers of design and critics of design. And they are marvellous clients because they really know what needs to be done in their school to make it better through design. Currently, we are running something called the National Art and Design Saturday Club, which goes back to my roots and also my wife's roots, because she went to Saturday classes when she was 14. And we've revived the idea of Saturday classes, and right now we're working with 27 colleges and universities all over the UK, giving 14-year-olds the chance to do 100 hours of extra tuition over 30 Saturdays in the academic year.
Yeah. So that'll produce the next Sir John Sorrell.
Well, I don't know about that, but it will give a lot of these children the chance to, what my wife calls, have a look in the kitchen, to see if they like what's cooking, and if they like it, then maybe they will go on to further and higher education and then careers in the creative industries.
Yeah. Okay, so just to change track a little bit, I'd like to ask you about London Design Festival. You've been very heavily involved in that. It was your idea. So just tell us a bit about what it means and what the impact is.
Well, we started the festival in 2003, so it's the last one was 10 years. It's grown over the years, and we now have over 300 events which take place all over London in different venues, from small design studios to big museums and galleries like the Victoria and Albert Museum, the British Museum, the Tate, and so on. And it has an audience of about 350,000 people who go to the different things, 60,000 of those from outside the UK. And what it has become is an international celebration and conversation about design taking place in London every September. And it's absolutely fascinating because London is a global design hub where international communities meet. And it is my personal belief that design is now a totally international activity. Anyone working in the world of design needs to understand and know what's going on globally. So every year the festival gives people the opportunity to meet, discuss, debate, argue, celebrate, party, and out of that kind of melting pot comes lots of new ideas, new relationships, new networks. So it's become an event on the global calendar for people in the design community all over the world.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple more fairly brief questions. I mean, one is about your thoughts on the relationship between art and design. Can you talk about that?
Well, art and design. I'd like to add another word for this conversation, which is technology.
Okay.
I think that those three things are all totally interlocking and overlapping. Now, in this age, I know and work with artists, with designers, and with great people working in technology. They're all looking at what's going on under those other headings. Yeah. And I think to separate them in the year 2013 is probably not the best thing to do, because they relate to each other so much. And I think the people who will seize the future are the ones who are able to work across those three spaces and combine them. And it's so, you know, here in Korea, I'm very interested in the discussion that's taking place while I'm here about new ministry, which is going to be called Ministry of the Future, Creativity and Science. Now, I think that's a rather good title, although I'd like design in it as well. But my Korean friends are telling me that we want design in it. But I think today we absolutely have to look at these three things fused together, because that is the way the world is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you said, and as we said at the beginning, we are here in Korea. I know you've only been here 24 hours or so on this trip, but you have met several people involved in design. You've had a good look around. Any thoughts on design in Korea?
Well, first of all, I've met some fantastic people here, Korean designers, architects, people who run the institutes, people in government. And it's absolutely clear that in Korea, design and creativity is moving centre stage. It's becoming more and more important in the way that people see how it can impact not just culturally and socially, but also economically. And this is terribly important, because when governments, whether they're national or local governments, realise that design and creativity can actually help the economy as well as help people socially and culturally, they get right behind it. Yeah. And we've been fortunate in the UK to have had a very strong creative industries sector now for the last 15 or 20 years. And I actually see huge similarities between what we've been experiencing in the UK and what friends here in Korea have been talking about, the experiences they're going through. So very importantly, I think, we have the opportunity to forge some very, very strong creative partnerships, which I think will be beneficial to both Korea and to the UK.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.